All right, hello and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about what it actually looks like to be on a healing, transformation, growth path. Because I feel like, again, I've spoken about this a lot, but I feel like we can't talk about it enough, which is in the self help, spirituality, personal growth world, there are a lot of narratives about what it really looks like to be healing. And I feel like a lot of these narratives and a lot of these messages actually totally obfuscate the path of transformation and what it really looks like to be changing your life and transforming your life. And they confuse us and they make us feel like we're doing something wrong when we're really doing the right thing. Or it makes us feel like we're doing something right when we're really doing something that's totally distracting a lot of the time. So this is why I wanted to talk about this today. And this is actually something that I've been really passionate about talking about for pretty much my entire YouTube career, my entire coaching career, because again, this is just something that is so pervasive in our self help, spirituality, and personal growth worlds that I don't think that it can be talked about enough. Okay, so that's why I really want to talk about like what does this actually look like when we're on a path of growth and transformation and we're just a normal person. and and yeah, I really want to kind of like take the pressure off and again try and remove some of the confusion that can come with all of this that can lead us to feeling like I must be doing it wrong and I must be missing something and I must be, not doing all the things I should be doing it because it doesn't look this very specific way that a lot of us feel when we're on the growth and transformation path, and explaining why the slow and the simple and the basic and the you can't really even show it to other people path is actually the reality. Okay, so again, just to say before we get started, if you are enjoying this material, if you are feeling like you're benefiting from it and you're wanting to go deeper, or you just want something that's more structured and organized, I am always going to just recommend the mystery school that I have, because that's what that is. It's a program, it's a 5-year self-study program with just step-by-step guides for how to learn to love yourself and how to learn to figure out, who you are, what you want, what's going to serve you best in your life, and how you can start to move towards a lifestyle that is going to work for you. And it's not going to, I'm not promising that it will completely give you absolutely everything you want and take away all of your negative emotions and make everything perfect. Rather, I feel like it's a path of learning to understand ourselves and to slowly, over time, build new habits and new awareness and new capacity to just be nice to ourselves and to have compassion for ourselves and to have curiosity for ourselves so that we can process our emotions, so that we can figure out things that really do work for us and the things that really don't, and then step into our problem solving capacity and figure out how to, minimize the things that don't work and maximize the things that do. And it's very, there's lots and lots of technical theory, videos, explanations for why we are the way we are and how our childhood affects us and why learning to be angry and sad and validating our emotions is so important, and it's very progressive. And then there's also lots of practical stuff and practical steps and practical tools that are just, these are the things that you can actually do on a day-to-day basis to support yourself. So if you want to check that out, you can always find it in my link tree in my bio on my website. You can send me a message if you want any information on that. And then if you want to talk about coaching, I have a form that you can fill out, or you can send me a message on Perception Trainers at Perception Trainers, theperceptiontrainers@gmail.com. So that's that. Thank you for letting me put in my ad for today's sponsor. And now let's get on with the video. Okay, so in our self-help, spirituality, and personal growth worlds, there are a lot of the time kind of two pretty extreme camps when it comes to what we hear and what we're told about what the spiritual, personal growth, self-help path looks like. Okay? And on the one side, it's you need to completely radically change your life, right? Like on the one side, it's you need to move to Southeast Asia or South America somewhere. You need to get off the grid. You need to do all the plant medicine ceremonies. You need to radically change your diet. You need to become polarized in your relationships. You need to live this life that looks radically different from how everyone else is living, right? And that healing, growth, and expansion is going to mean that you get out of the matrix and you get out of the rat race and you don't work a normal job and you don't have a normal relationship. And like I say, you eat differently and you live differently. And that's how people know you've done it, right? Like that's how people know that you've awakened. And you have to practice yoga and you have to meditate and you have to have like this whole different way of speaking and a whole different lingo, and you have to fit into this whole alternative group. Yeah? And a lot of us feel, I think, a lot of pressure when we look at that and when we take that in as being like what the spiritual path is. And I think in some ways, that idea can be really intoxicating and it can be really attractive because it is so extreme and it is so outwardly obviously different. And therefore it makes us really feel like we must be doing something different, right? Like we're leaving the matrix, we're being different than everyone else. That must be what it is to heal and change and transform. And then there's this kind of idea around it that, like, you know, the mainstream way of doing things is the problem. And that the people who are in the mainstream are sheeple and they're asleep and they don't know what they're doing. And in order to be really awakening or really doing your work or really transforming, you have to be living this life where you're totally radically different. You dress different, you have a different kind of haircut, you have tattoos or whatever it is. And they're just the kind of over and over message that we hear in spirituality, self-help, and personal growth in lots of different ways, that healing and growth and transformation has to look really extreme, right? That being the kind of main underlying message. And that if you are still living any kind of normal life, if you work a normal job, if you have a normal relationship, if you eat a standard American diet, if you're doing any of these quote unquote normal things, if you're living normally, there's something wrong with you. And that's wrong and that's bad and that's not who you should be. And so it's kind of putting the cart before the horse in a lot of ways, and we're going to talk about that as we go in the video. But it's like you need to act in these certain ways. You need to behave in these certain extreme ways as a way of showing that you're doing the transformation path, or as proof that you're doing it, or that these are the things that will create the transformation, right? That if you get off grid, if you detox from culture, if you go and live these radical ways, that in doing that, you are going to be transforming. That those actions themselves are the things that will change you and transform you and make you different. Okay? So there's that camp. And again, I'm just going to say this now and we're going to get deeper into it as we go, but there is nothing wrong with that. Okay? There is nothing wrong with wanting to do any of those things. And I'm not saying that any of those things are fake or wrong or not the path. What I am saying is that when we look at that as being what the path has to look like and should look like, and anyone who is not doing those things, that means that they are clearly not doing it. That's the problem. Okay? So if you are doing any of those things and those things feel good to you and those things feel real to you and those things feel right to you, that's amazing and that's great and I want you to do them. All I'm saying is, if you feel like because I am not doing those things, I must not be doing it, or that is the only way to be on a growth and transformation path, or if I am not getting to that place, I must not be doing it right. That is what I am speaking to as being like, that is what I want to say is not correct. Okay? So that's the first side of it. That healing, transformation, and growth means that you have to be radically different from how everyone else is. And that is what it means to be on a growth path. Okay? And then on the other side, the kind of extreme other end of the message of what it is to be healing and growing, we have the people who say, if you're really doing this path right, if you're really discovering yourself, if you're really awakening, if you're really growing, if you're really transcending, you're going to have ultimate success in the system, right? You're going to become someone who discovers your purpose, and that purpose is going to make you famous. That purpose is going to make you really, really wealthy. Or you're going to get the book deal, or you're going to be on Instagram and YouTube, or whatever it is, right? You're going to have this like career that everyone in our culture would look at and be like, you are a success, right? You found your purpose, you found who you are supposed to be, and it has equaled mainstream success. Yeah? You are going to find your perfect partner, and you're going to have this amazing, beautiful, transcended relationship where you're in divine union, and everyone would look at you and be like, you have a successful relationship. You have money, you have status, you have power, and that you have done your transformational work, and you've done your self-love work enough, and you've grown enough that you can be like normal. You don't have to leave society. You're in fact going to be far more successful than everyone else in society. And that's what it means to be on a spiritual growth path. You're going to find your purpose, you're going to find your place, and it's going to be in the world, and it's going to be in the mainstream. And maybe, there's kind of these ideas of like, you're going to be like some radical change maker, and you're going to have power in the system to like shake things up, and you're going to disrupt the industries because you've gone on this growth path, and now you're like in with all the people. Right? Like Oprah's featuring you, and you're friends with Deepak Chopra, and you're transforming the system from the inside out because you have all this power, right? So there's these two extremes that we are taught, that this is what it looks like to be on a growth path. You're either going to be radically leaving society and creating the new earth in whatever way we conceptualize that, or you're going to be radically in society, and you're going to be radically successful within society, and that these are the two poles of what it looks like to be doing the spiritual and self-love growth path correctly. And that if you are not experiencing that you must be doing it wrong, that you must be missing something. And on both sides, okay, again, on both sides, when we feel that I must be doing it wrong, I must be missing something, I must not be doing it right because I'm not having this extreme experience, we are often then sold extreme experiences, right? We're sold that like, okay, well, if you really want to awaken, and you really want to do this work, and you really want to have a transformation, you need to go on the plant medicine ceremony. You need to go to the retreats. You need to go to the radical weekend self-love inner child healing retreat, and it's going to change all of your patterns in one weekend. Or you need to do the extreme fast, or you need to be doing as many different spiritual modalities as possible, and you need to be meditating an hour a day, and doing your yoga, and doing your morning journaling pages, and you got to be doing all of this stuff, and you have to be filling your life with like as much practice and as much shoving it into your face as possible. And that is also a huge part of the message, right? That if you're not like making this your entire life, if you are not making healing, growth, spirituality, transformation, everything that you are doing all of the time, if you're not centering your entire world around this, that you're doing it wrong and you're missing something. And that is the reason why you're not figuring out who you are and whatever it is, right? And then, so the ultimate message being that if you really do this path correctly and if you're doing it right, it's going to lead to this radical life. It's going to lead to this life that on paper that anyone else would look at and be like, wow, you are living this really special, radical, totally not normal or average life. There is no room for being average. There's no room for being normal. There's no room for just living your life and having your experience. It's all this extreme, and if it's not this extreme, you must be doing it wrong. And that, I believe, is the reason that so many of us are caught in this always striving, never arriving, toxic place of never really getting on the actual transformation path, because it's all centered around what it looks like on the outside. It's all centered around what we can show to the world and what we can say to the world as like, look, I'm doing it. I'm on the transformation path. I'm on the self-growth path, and I can prove it because I'm having radical success, or because I'm radically different than everybody else, or because I am doing all of these radical things with my day and I'm just not a normal person. Okay? And I remember a long time ago, like many years ago actually, I was doing these talks and sharing the things that I've always been sharing. And someone asked me, they're like, okay, but like, what about the rest of your day? Right? Like, what about when you're just at work and you're just doing the dishes and you're just cooking food? Like, are we supposed to be processing our emotions and figuring out who we are and having these big existential conversations and figuring out how to create the new earth and all this stuff all the time? Like, what about when we're just living our normal life? And something about that comment just like really stuck with me up until now. Like I say, like that's something that someone said to me years ago. And it was something that I was like, yeah, this is so important to talk about. And it was so impactful because I feel like this is what is so rarely talked about when we listen to anybody who talks about self-love, transformation, spiritual growth, right? Because that's the other thing. That's the other thing that I want to say is that so much of the time, right, the loudest voices that we hear and the most extreme, the things that we tend to be presented with in terms of the example of people who are doing this work and who are transforming their lives tend to be the most extreme. It tends to be the people who did move to Costa Rica and create a self-sustaining farm, and now they have like a Airbnb that you can come and do workshops, right? Or the people who are traveling the world tasting fruit, or the people who are book deals and have big followings on social media. And these are the examples that we're given of like, this is what it looks like when you do it, because they are the people who have the most extreme story. They have the most entertaining story. They have the story that really follows our concept of the hero's journey of, I was just living this normal life and now I'm living this radically different life. And it's an interesting story and it's engaging and it's extreme in some way. And those are the stories we hear. And so it can start to really feel like that is the only thing. That's the only thing that exists. And if you are not doing that, if you are not experiencing that, that you must be doing it wrong, because it looks like and it feels like and it's presented to us as though everyone who does this has those results. That everyone who does this has those results. And then the next biggest thing here is that the people who are even wanting to do this work, right? The people who are wanting to do our self-love, transformation, wellness, spirituality, personal growth work, the people who are called to doing this on any level, tend to be the kind of people for whom the mainstream is not working. So there's that element of it, right? There is the element of the fact that a lot of us are in society and we don't feel good. We don't feel good with normal. We don't feel good with how things are. And we don't feel good within what culture is telling us is what we should be doing and how we should be living. We don't feel good eating normal foods. We don't feel good interacting the way that most people interact. We don't feel good working the normal jobs. We don't feel good trying to live the normal life. And so that instinct in us to say, throw it all out, everything about this is wrong, get rid of it all, or I have to become extremely successful within it, is going to be high. And then when the only examples that we're given for what the transformation path looks like are these extreme examples, because they are the loudest, most extreme, most entertaining examples, we can start to get the picture that that is the only way, and that that is the right way, and that that is what it has to look like, and that our whole lives have to be this radical transformation. And if we are experiencing anything less, that we're missing it, that we're not doing it, that it's not right. And that can lead us again to completely obfuscating what the point of this path is, why we're doing it, and what the ultimate outcome that we actually want is. Okay, so now let's come back to what is the actual point of the spirituality, self-help, and personal growth path? Why would we even do it? What is the point? Right? Because if we're saying the point is not to become as radical as possible, and if we're saying that the point is not to become as successful within the system as possible, what is the point? Why would we do it? Why would we bother doing all of this work and questioning things and going through dark nights of the soul and trying to get away from the mainstream or whatever it is? Why do we bother? Because at the end of the day, this work is pretty uncomfortable. In a lot of ways and a lot of times, when we are facing our trauma, when we're facing our patterns, when we're learning to accept and validate our emotions, when we're really getting honest about how we feel about things and what we think about things and what we need and what we want, it's hard. It's hard. And it is not fun and it's not easy to be in a place where you feel like you don't fit into normal, where you feel like you just can't find your way, and you're struggling. It's not comfortable. So why would we do this? What is the point? And I want to remind you that the point of this work, why would you join the mystery school? Right? Why would you do the self-love path at all? The point is that you deserve to live a life that you feel comfortable in. You deserve to live a life that you can say, this reflects what feels best for me to the best of my ability right here, right now. That's the point. Okay? The point is not to have a bunch of people be able to look at you and approve of what you've done. The point is not to be as contradictory as possible as a way of like sticking your middle finger up, at mainstream culture. The point is not to have it be that other people look at you and say you are a success and you did it and you transformed and good for you. And we all approve and we all see it and we all validate it. Because at the end of the day, the whole world can validate you. The whole world can tell you, you did it. You're doing it right. You are successful. You are awakened. You are transcended. But if you don't feel it, if that's not your real true experience, what does it matter? If it didn't move the needle in terms of you actually feeling better in your life, then it wasn't worth it. Because at the end of the day, you deserve to be able to live a life that feels good for you. The point is not to make it look like it should look. The point is not to live a life that other people can say, you did it. What matters is how you feel in your day-to-day experience. What matters is how you feel in your day-to-day experience. And for each one of us, this is the real truth. Finding what feels good for us. Finding the path of awakening. Finding our own hero's journey. Coming to this place of saying, I have a pretty good idea of who I am and what I value and what matters to me and how I want to live my life, is going to look completely different for each and every one of us. And this idea that there's an ultimate way that we're all going to look when we do this work right really brings so much judgment and so much hierarchy and so much just lack of compassion and understanding to this picture. Okay? So the real reality is, let's start talking about what does this path actually look like. Number one, biggest, most important thing, your transformation and what your life is going to end up looking like and what is and is not worth it for you is going to be completely unique to you. There are so many people that I have connected with over the last 15 years of doing this work whose lives on the surface look so mundane. They have a job, they have a family, they eat a pretty normal diet. But the way that they are as human beings, the way that they show up in the world, the way that they treat people, the values that they hold, the things they consume and the things they produce, the human beings that they are, is so radically different than the mainstream, right? These people are deeply special people. I have met so many people here, farmers, like durian, like old durian farmers, who you will never find on social media. They are never going to be giving lectures like this. They are people who do their work, who live their lives to have their experience. Like literally, there's this guy who has a durian farm here, and he comes to the market every day during durian season, and in the off season, he's a teacher. He teaches Chinese language. He judges Chinese poetry reading. He, for free, at night, teaches Chinese dialect classes to primary school students. He is genuinely one of the most, just when you spend time with this person, he is generous, he is kind, everybody loves him, he's got his circle of friends, he's found purpose in teaching language and selling durian, and he has a whole rich life, and you can just tell he is kind, he is compassionate, he makes people feel safe when they're around him. And, right, he's not radically living off the grid. He's not radically anything. He's living a pretty normal life in comparison to what the people are here are like. He didn't leave his family. He didn't leave his island. He didn't leave. He's living his life pretty mainstream for how he was raised. And he followed what was important to him. He studied what was important to him. And he lives this life. And it's very special. And it means something to him. And he has his impact. And it's beautiful and it's perfect. And on the flip side, I have personally met so many conscious people, spiritual people, who left their 9 to 5, moved to Southeast Asia, who run their coaching groups and who have lots of money and success or whatever, who are awful to be around. They're people who are constantly navel gazing. They're self-obsessed. They are incredibly judgmental. Shame anyone who lives a normal life. They aren't nice to customer service people. They're rude. They're entitled. And on paper, by every metric, they're awakened. Because they eat an all-organic diet and they live off-grid and they are in Bali and they're teaching spirituality for a job and they only wear organic fabric and they don't put conditioner in their hair. And they're not nice people. Like, they're not happy. Like, you can tell they're not happy. You can tell they're not satisfied. They constantly feel like they aren't enough. And they have told me this. Like, I've had conversations with these people. And it's all a show of doing the things and going through the motions. And they've done all the ayahuasca trips and they've had all the spiritual experiences and they've written all the blogs and they've made all the videos and they do the high ticket coaching and all of this stuff. And then you look at their actual lives and how they're living and what they're doing and what their lives actually look like. And they're not happy in their relationships and they're not happy in their body and they're not satisfied in their careers and nothing ever feels like they're not enough. And they're still completely caught up in like the underlying what is wrong with the matrix thinking. That even though on the surface it all looks so different and transformed and radical, their inner being, their consciousness, their awareness, their conditioning is still completely in alignment with the mainstream. So their external looks so different, but nothing has shifted inside. They're still operating from the I am not enough, I am not good enough, my life doesn't count unless I can show it to somebody. And this is, again, what I want to say is the actual root of what it means to awaken. Okay? Here it is. The real awakening path is when you realize that the rules of culture, of who you have to be and what you have to do to be good enough, to be loved, to be worthy, and to have a life that you can say is a good enough life, are fake. It's V for Vendetta if you've ever seen that movie. The real awakening path is when you realize that so many of the rules that we are following that tell us who and what we have to be, that there is an external way we have to be in order to be good enough and worthy is the matrix. That's it. That's the false narrative. That we have to earn love, that we have to earn worthiness, that life for the sake of life is not the thing that has value. What I really hope, if you take nothing away from this video, I want you to take this away. Your life matters because you are living it. Your life matters because you are living it. You are a unique human being that has never been before and will never be again. There is no one like you. And what is going to fulfill you in terms of what you are going to do and what your life is going to look like? Nobody else can tell you that. Nobody can tell you what you being awake is going to look like. You are going to figure that out through learning to honor how you feel. Through learning to honor what you value, what is important to you, when you are not trying to earn your goodness, your value, or love. Because we live in a world right now that has 100% normalized the idea that the system of profiting those who are at the top, the system of constant productivity and consumption, is the thing that has value. And that humans have to fit themselves into that in order to be safe. This is why the conditioning is so thick. Because it's not just a mental idea. It's an actual lived reality that people are not made to be safe in our world. We don't know how to have genuine community. We are taught to be in a state of constant competition. There is constant insecurity and threat and feeling like we're never going to be enough and we're never going to be safe and we're never going to have our needs met. Many of us had really adverse childhood experiences where our caregivers did not provide for us a secure connection, and we learned right from the beginning that who and what we are is not okay. And then we have this hole inside of us that we carry around with us for the rest of our lives that is continually reflected back to us by a culture that continues to share that same message, that your life doesn't have value because you are living it, that you are not the thing that is important, that life is not the thing that is important, but it is how life can serve the system that's important. That's the matrix. That the system is what matters and that humans have to fit themselves within that. Instead of life being what matters, and let's build systems that support that as much as possible. That's the complete backwards nature of culture. That our systems of productivity and consumption are the thing that have priority, and that human beings have to earn their safety, they have to earn their provision, they have to earn being loved and all of these things by trying to fit into that, by trying to fit into the social structures, by trying to fit into the work culture, by trying to fit into the consumption and production culture, by trying to fit into spirituality and what spiritual people look like, right? It seems like no matter where we go, you can go to the most extreme, radical, spiritual ayahuasca retreat or corporate America, and the energy, the vibe is the same. They're no different. It's, do you fit in? Are you wearing the right outfit? Are you speaking the right language? Do you serve this community? Not, does this community serve you? That's the matrix. So when we are doing our spiritual work, when we are doing our awakening work, that is what we are waking up to. That's why almost all of the work that I do is around shame, blame, and guilt. Because when we can shift out of, I am in pain and I am struggling and I don't feel good because I am shitty, because I am unworthy of love, because I deserve to not be provided for, because the system is right, my caregivers were right, everyone else was right, and I need to learn how to fix myself so that I will be loved and therefore earn my safety. When we can get out of that and we can start to validate the pain we went through as children, when we can start to validate what actually doesn't feel good about what we're doing, when we can validate our experience of where we are and how we were traumatized and all of the realities of our lives that are holding us back from the things that we want, and then start to learn to say, okay, this is who I am. This is what I want. This is what matters to me. Whether anyone else understands or validates or approves of it or not. And also, my life counts and my life matters because I am living it. I am having my experience, and my experience is it. If I spend the rest of my life making bread and cleaning my house and being a housewife, and I was allowing myself to feel good enough, allowing myself to connect to my feelings, allowing myself to explore my version of spirituality, and I turned into the kind of person who was kind, who was able to be a support in my community in the ways that I could be, who showed up for the people in my reality to the best of my ability with compassion, and I could validate people where they were at, and I didn't try to fix them and I didn't try to change them. I was just kind. And I let myself stop doing the things I didn't need to do within society that didn't feel good to me and that didn't really even contribute to me getting my needs met. And I had compassion for myself and was kind to myself about the things I did need to continue to participate in that didn't feel good to me because of the limits of society. You did it. You lived an awakened life. When we can start to see that life is the thing that has value, and we start to organize our lives around that principle, that everyone you meet has value because they exist, and you start to live your life like that is the truth, it doesn't fucking matter what job you work. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter what your relationship status is. You did it. You got out of the matrix. And then however you're going to live your life, however you're going to balance being in a world where literally all of us are going to cause harm. All of us are going to have things in our lifestyle that are not ideal because we don't live in an ideal system. None of us have the capacity to completely check out of all the ways that our culture causes harm. Rather, we're going to do our best, to the best of our ability, with what we have access to participate less in the ways that we can. Right? So the single mom in the middle of America who has 2 kids and has to work 5 jobs, she's probably going to eat at McDonald's. And for someone who was born wealthy and privileged and with a lot of access, who can say, yeah, well, I have a farm and I only eat organic and I only would. Okay. You judge her all you want. But that is a completely unfair judgment. Who's more awakened? The woman who's taking care of the life that she has been given to take care of in the ways that she can? Or the person, right, who's living in Bali and doing all the things but is rude to everyone and their whole life is just about making themselves look good? Who's more awakened? Who's changing society more? Who's contributing to harm more? These are the questions I want you to start asking yourself. If awakening is life has value, and life is the thing that has value, and that's our organizing principle. My life has value because I am living it. Everyone else's life has value because they are living it. And we can start to have compassion for where people are at. The people who are living their mainstream lives, we stop looking at them and calling them sheeple and calling them asleep. And we start saying, if I had lived their life, I would probably be making the exact same choices they're making. Right? We stop being so insecure that if other people don't reflect our choices back to ourselves, we either have to judge ourselves and shame ourselves and think we're doing it wrong, or we have to shame them. What if we're just different? And it's okay to be different. Like, I want to say, right, like personally, my parents have really changed in the last couple of years. And they've awakened in a lot of ways that are pretty, surprising to me. And for their lives and what they went through and what they're capable of, it's like, wow, you've awakened quite a bit. You've grown quite a bit. But does this mean that they're living some radical life? No. Like, they're probably the most mainstream people I know. But does that make it wrong? Does that make it not good enough? Of course not. They're doing what they're capable of in their lifetime based on what they have been through. And that's good enough. Because life has value for the sake of life. Would I go and live how they're living? Would I make the choices they're making? No. But I have a totally different life than them. I have a totally different value system than them. I have had a completely different experience than them. But neither of us are right or wrong. So this is what I wanted to say. If you're living a normal life where most of your day is going to work, making food, working out, watching TV, but you're learning to have compassion for yourself, you're learning to question the shame, blame, and guilt stories that tell you that you're not enough, you're learning to value life because life is what has value, you're doing it. If you're one of these people who's doing that work, and it's driving you to a place where you're saying, I can't live in culture anymore. I have to go live in Costa Rica. I have to go make a farm. I have to be on this different diet. Great. Do it because it supports you. It supports the life that you are. If you're doing it for that reason, you're doing it right. If you're doing it because you think that you should, or that's what an awakened person would do, or that's what all the other spiritual people are doing, you're missing the point. Because, again, you could do that, and everyone can approve of you. And everyone can say, wow, you're really radical, and you're so different, and good for you. But how does it actually feel in your experience? Does it make you feel better? Does it make you feel more connected to the fact that you're worthy just as you are? Does it make you more compassionate and supportive of the people around you? And if the answer is no, then what's the point? Great, people approve of you. And just because we're doing something radical doesn't mean we have been set free. Just because we have great success within culture doesn't mean we're not still dealing every single night when we go to bed with this toxic feeling of not being enough and not being good enough. That is what awakening is. It's realizing that you and your life count because you are living it. Not every minute of your day has to be productivity. Not every single minute of your day has to be spiritual awakening work. Not every minute of your day has to look any certain way. How does it feel to you? How does it feel? How do you feel in your life on a day-to-day basis? And to the best of your ability, how can you live a life that honors life? That's it. That's what it looks like to be on this path. So therefore, no one can tell you what the surface stuff is going to look like. That's why I never say, if you want to be awakened, eat this diet. If you want to be transformed, leave your job. Find a polarized relationship. This is what awakened relationships look like. This is what awakened career looks like. This is what an awakened diet looks like. Because we are all from such different backgrounds, different places, different needs, that it would be completely disingenuous for me to say that that's what it's going to look like for anybody. That's not fair. For some people, a polarized relationship is going to feel amazing. For some people, that is not going to feel good at all. For some people, they're going to be vegan. Some people are going to eat animals. And then we're going to change. We're going to change over time. And we're going to see things differently as we continue on our path of just detangling from this idea that we have to earn it and that we have to be like other people, and realizing the complexity of the systems that we live in, and just saying, okay, where do I fit within the complexity right now? And I think that that's the other big thing, right? Is that we just want something simple. We want an explanation that's like, okay, I can conceptualize this. This is what this is going to look like. This is how this is. These are the rules. But unfortunately, we don't live in that world. There isn't a universal best way to eat, or a universal best way to work, or a universal best thing to do. Because again, the systems that we live in are so complicated. It's all very complex. And where we fit in terms of how we as individuals can or can't move the needle for making things better is so different for all of us. Like I say, some of us are going to eat at McDonald's, and we're on our awakening path. And some people are going to look at that and be like, how could you possibly be awakening and contributing to that? And it's like, because that's where I am in my life. That's what I have access to right now. We need to get rid of the judgment, the shaming, this is what it looks like for all of us, because it's not real. That's part of the matrix. It's not getting out of the matrix. Validating your life experience, making it okay that you are where you are, that you feel how you feel, that you have access to what you have access to, and doing your best within that to be as kind and compassionate to yourself and others. To be the kind of person who lives a life where your value system is life has value instead of how do we fit life into the system. You're doing it. That's it. You're on the path. However that looks for you. That's it. That's it. Okay? So you don't have to be completely radical unless that's something that really feels real to you. You might not live a life that is anything extraordinary, that is anything outside of just the most mundane, ordinary, on the surface life. And it can feel so profound because you are having your life experience and you are in it and you are feeling it and you are loving and you are growing and you're going through the challenges you never thought were ever going to happen to you, and you're facing what is going to happen in your life, and you're just doing your best. That's it. That's it. Okay? So I hope that that was helpful and clarifying and takes the pressure off. There's no way it has to look. It's going to look different for everybody, and it's going to look different for you as you progress. It's just that you starting to value what actually has value is the point. And then however that looks for you is good enough. Okay? So that's it. Sending you so much love because you are what has value. Your life matters because you are living it. You are allowed to spend your days however you see fit. And if it matters to you, and if it's in the phase you're in right now, and that's what you're doing, and it's not productive, and it's not what other people say, but you're processing your emotions, or you're crying a lot, or you're doing whatever you're doing, do it. Let yourself be in the phase you're in. Honor the life that you have right now, the you that exists right now. And just go from there. Do that over and over again. And you're living it. Okay? Okay. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for spending your time with me. And I'll see you next week.